But supposedly now he's got some allegations going on in the UK. Again, international cheeks.
Grabbing nuts.
We gotta get you out of there. International cheeking it up. He was doing a lot of wild politician, corrupt, nasty, diabolical shit. There's just a lot of absolute nonsense.
This nigga had space.
Bro,
this nigga had space in his clothes to store more. Welcome to the Any Last Words pod. My name is Keion, aka Almighty the DJ.
See, this shit getting a little crazy here. And my name is Earl Lonnie Hooks. A very, very special thanks to everybody that will be joining us today on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, as well as YouTube. And please do not forget to follow us at ALW Pod on Instagram. The God in me honors the God in each and every one of you. See, this one says, second Kevin Spacey sexual assault accuser dies in a year. So there was another one.
Was it by suicide?
That died.
A mysterious car crash?
Yeah, see, dude, I don't even know. Oh, there was a third individual reported dead in February. Okay, this isn't this year again. This is old. But although the circumstances surrounding that case warrant separate consideration, Linda Culkin was hit by a car and killed in February after spending 51 months in a federal prison for harassing, stalking, and threatening Spacey after a former patient alleged that the actor had assaulted him. So there were like 3 people that died that accused Kevin Spacey of assaulting people.
Ain't heard from Kevin Spacey in a long time. He ain't got much to say these days.
Now, again, you didn't watch House of Cards, but House of Cards was a great show, and he really sold it. And I believe, I just got done watching Ozark, and then after Ozark, there was like a farewell to Ozark that was like 30 minutes long. And those things are really pretty cool, especially if you liked whatever show you were watching, like you really enjoyed it. And this one was good till the whole way through. The ending was awesome, like it was satisfying, like they did it all. This show was fucking awesome. So you like see the behind the scenes and what the people are like and how they do the setups and who comes on to direct and what the writing is like and the creative, brilliant minds of all the people that come together to make the best stories for us.
I've always thought it was really interesting how shows have more than one direct. They'll have someone direct an episode and then someone else direct like 2 other episodes.
It's bad. I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like because Jason Bateman he was like one of those child stars. Like he's been in this game like his whole life pretty much. So acting just it's what he does now. He just lives and breathes it. And I think he's been directing for a long time too. And he came on, started directing this, working with great writers. And sometimes he would take a step back and they would just get another actor that had never, I forgot what her name is, but it's Wendy. It's the woman that plays on there.
I think he directed The Outsider too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because he was only in like the first 3 episodes maybe.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But to just get an actor on the show that's never directed, and then everyone encourages her, hey, just come direct this. Come direct this episode real quick. Like it's just like a real fun, loose thing, but you know that you're creating something great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're just like, hey, come direct this episode real quick.
Yeah, but I have to imagine that the writers and producers, they kind of get a feel for what they want the episode to be like. So they'll have someone that they feel like can do that
true
for
to
them.
that.
Exactly. You know, really bring what it is that what they've got here to light. That's
exactly what they talked about. Because again, they have a writing, they have a theme, they have a certain way that they shoot the angles in the a certain way that they take color out to give it an eerie feel. Yeah. Like all different sorts of stuff like that. So.
I've probably watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Ozark. Yeah. But I just have this picture in my mind of like that kind of like bluish, grayish look
exactly.
that they use quite a bit.
Exactly that. And so everyone that watches the show and then you talk with the writers and the other directors and you're on the set, you get a feel for what's going on. Yeah. So as a director, you just can't take that shit left and make it look like Willy Wonka. Like you gotta stay true to it. But you're right, that is interesting.
It's like,
and I was watching it with the lady. I was like, I wonder why they do that. Cause I was thinking I said the exact same thing you did. And she was like, well, I think it would make sense As long as you know these other directors are extremely talented, you've seen their work. And what's interesting is, because I'm not off this Kevin Spacey thing, is one of the people that they got, I think, to work on this last season, her name is Robin Wright. And she is Claire from House of Cards. She's the wife, right? So she's like, I think that you would want fresh eyes. I think you would want someone to just come and has fresh eyes about what it is going on here. So it doesn't stay too stale or too much of the same thing.
Right.
There's a theme that you're going for and a feel you're going for, but sometimes I think you just want another creative to come around and sort of rattle the cage a little bit.
You want to stay on the general track, but as you're moving along, you won't mind just kind of grabbing a couple things here and there. You know
I think that's what great art is probably about. Like that's what's amazing about art in general to me, is that there's like unfathomable amount of ways to do things. It doesn't mean that they're all good, because a lot of times I think that there are way more, just generally in life, way like more terrible ways to do something than there are right ways of doing it.
And then, but even on top of that, those terrible things, they may not work for that particular instance, but those terrible things could work really, really good. In another way, in another lifetime, on another set.
Right.
With another director and another cast.
Or another cast. Exactly. Yeah. And that's
another story.
That's exactly what it is. Because just for instance, before we get into that stuff, is you and I come on, we do this podcast. This is our medium of art at this moment, at this particular moment. Now, I was going back and cutting out all these different reaction shots so that I could, spruce up the YouTube page a bit, right?
Right.
And I'm going back and I'm looking at all these different conversations with all these different people for a lot of episodes. I probably did this thing for like over 30 episodes, right? And I'm going back and looking at all this different stuff and all the fun we're having, all the the deep conversation, the crying, all this different sort of stuff. And depending upon who's there and who you're working with, it's going to be a whole different thing. It's going to be a whole different feel, or depending upon, which I've seen, what our energy levels are, or what we happen to be dealing with outside of the pod that leaks into the art.
Right.
Like it all changes. So it's one of those things that it seems good to have some level of structure. And at the same time, you also have to have room to spread your wings.
I mean, that's what keeps everything fresh.
Yeah.
Gives a freshness to it.
You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to do both of those things at once. Now, I've usually erred on the side of being more artistically limber, right? And not nearly as structured. But from someone or something that I heard from someone recently, you would be that person to me. They said something that I like about the podcast, especially when you and Keion are doing your thing, is the fact that your mind, Earl, it works quite divergently. You're quite a lateral thinker, and one thing makes you think of 10 things, and then you start, hopping around and grabbing a bunch of stuff and weaving it together in some weird way, but it ends up making sense along the way. You just have to listen, right? But it's very creative and artistic. It's imaginative, right? It's sort of out there. It's loose. It's limber. Like I said, it's flexible.
Right.
And you're more of a convergent thinker. Like you keep things on track more than I guess I do. Right. And so there's sort of that balance there. And I guess that makes for some decent conversation.
I guess so.
Right. As opposed to two people that are like me and stuff is going all over the place all the time. And it makes complete sense to me.
Right.
And maybe that other version of me. Right. But it could be, I could lose people along the way if it's just me and me.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that if it was just you and you, like there wouldn't be enough spice added to things, right? So I guess so. You see what I'm saying? Right. So that's kind of
nah. It's I guess there's balance with everything. You gotta have balance with everything.
There's philosophy.
There's a lot. You've obviously been doing a lot of research on Twitter lately, and you've come across a lot of different podcasts where you feel like all these pods are kind of just about one thing. You know what I'm saying? Versus, but I guess with the way that your mind works, it kind of sets the pod up to kind of work in that light as well, even though I think in general, we both just didn't really want this to be a pod about something. We wanted this to be a pod about a lot of things.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it opens the spectrum.
It does. And that's the whole thing about like creating something. Like when you're trying to put together a business model for something, you're looking, and this is what I was saying to Mikey in the chat, you're looking, because we definitely have to talk about this Twitter thing. Right?
Okay. The rabbit hole.
Listen to me talk about it. This Twitter thing. Remember
the most popular social media app in the world.
And speaking of this Twitter thing, I haven't forgot about the Kevin Spacey thing, which is going to take me to the Elon Musk thing.
All right.
Okay, but let's just do Twitter for a second. Okay, so here's the thing. Remember that time that I came in here, and I think I was out there on the deck, I was smoking some weed, I was high, and Duty had those shoes on.
Yeah, the moon. They had like the moon.
Yeah, it was like some smoky. Some sort of I looked at it. It looked like it was smoky. You could also say it looked moon craterish.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like gray, black, white, but it looked sort of like a smoke.
And I think the sole was kind of like
the sole looked like it looked like concrete.
Yeah.
And then not even in that, but in the concrete looking sole, it looked like there were like nails drilled into the sides of it or something like
divots.
That. Yeah, like little divots. Exactly. Yeah. And so they were like protrusions on the end of them that looked like something was exactly inserted into it. And I'm looking at it. I'm high, first of all. And I'm looking at these shoes and I'm like, damn, but like, and I don't usually do this, but I was looking at them. I was like, damn.
Some shoe appreciation.
I was like, nigga, I'm just fire. I was like, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Like, I don't even get like this around shoes, and I would not wear them. That's another thing that people have to learn to do, is appreciate something that ain't for you. Like, I could never see myself wearing those shoes with my like wardrobe. Like,
like you have to be able to do that. I can't tell you how many times I've seen like Kanye West wear some shit, and I'm just like, man, that joint kind of cool. I would never put that on though. And that's just not for me. You know, I can't pull that off.
I'm thinking of like anything I've ever seen Kanye West wear and then you inside of it. And it's just not working. It's not working. Sort of like this sweater I got on right now. Like this just long, kind of like, austere.
Like 1.5 sleeves. Like, you know, it's just like, it's cool, but I would not put that on.
It's just not for you. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something you have to do. You got to be able to appreciate different people and just the variability of things in general, and like what the individuality that people have, and just what is for them and not for you. And that's a beautiful thing about people and art in general, that can really be the case. Like, man, that looks great on you. I would never even think about putting that on.
Right.
Like at all, but it works for you specifically. Yeah. I feel like that's a very cool thing. So, yes, Twitter, the largest social media, platform, network, whatever you want to call it, all these things above. And just like those shoes, which Duty told me I ought to have started a YouTube page of me looking at sneakers and commenting on them. Because there is something cool about someone that knows what the fuck they're talking about, commenting on something that they know about, right? Like, that's awesome. You're getting an insight from a professional, somebody that's been into something. That's cool. There's also something pretty cool about someone that knows nothing about it at all, but they're just looking at it with, just like the director coming into Ozark or whatever, fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't been here before. I don't know how you guys work, but I'm just going to look at this thing and just wrap my mind around it as best I can. And so me looking at those shoes and describing those shoes to him and you at that time, he was like, I've never heard anyone describe shoes like that. I've never, and you don't even do sneakers. I've never heard anyone talk about my shoes like this before. Like, cause most other people, so much that now the way that you describe stuff is going to be limited.
Right.
Because you're going to be like, oh, those are those joints with the gel soles and that type of tongue and those laces. And that'll be as far as you go. Maybe it's a link to a basketball player or someone. And you'll be like, oh yeah, those are those. those are the M's. Those are the M's. You know what I mean? Like they rock with those, whatever it is. So then now what you say is kind of limited about it. But for someone that's coming in with a completely fresh mind, I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to say the things that it reminds me of. Clouds and smoke and concrete and nails. So you have this very light, I don't even know what that shit was made of up top. But it was
probably, I want to say it's called fly knit.
Probably. That seems like it's just real light.
Yeah.
Like super kind of light. Very thin material.
Yeah.
Very comfortable for your feet to be in. I'm certain of it. But then with the contrast of that and the sole that looks like concrete and nails. So now you have this very hard infrastructure, this hard concrete infrastructure with this very light, top to it. Like that's just awesome to look at in general. And he's like, yeah, dude, I've never seen this before. That's the same way that I felt going into Twitter.
Okay.
I would always just post something on YouTube and just send it straight to Twitter. But I was never going into Twitter and looking at things. Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No. Go ahead.
So I don't know how you would describe Twitter to someone or like what your thoughts about Twitter are right now.
If I had to describe Twitter in a very short way, I would say that it's just a mixture of memes, a cesspool of ignorance.
All right.
Memes, a cesspool of ignorance. Now I can really only describe my timeline. I don't know what anybody else's timeline looks like.
Right.
But memes, a cesspool of ignorance, sports.
Right.
And yeah, I'm probably missing a few things, but those are probably the top three things. Some ignorant shit.
So this is what your world looks like on there. Because this is what you're describing.
I'm not describing it in full. There's probably little bits and pieces of other things sprinkled in there, but those are honestly the first things that I come across. And to be honest with you, Twitter started doing this thing recently, not recently, but they weren't always doing this, where they start recommending things that pages. Pages based on other pages that you looked at.
Right.
And a lot of times I got to hit the X like, nigga, I don't want to see this shit.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Get this out of here.
It's the algorithms at work trying to gather more data from you. Yeah, exactly. To cultivate your world.
Yeah. Like just because
Twitterverse.
Just because I happen to look at one little rap article, now y'all throwing everything rap. And like, I don't need everything rap. I just wanted to see that,
I feel you on that. So, okay. So that's your thing. I think that Mikey's assessment of it was pretty good, which is an ocean.
Yeah.
An ocean, or you could think space, right? Like anything outer space, anything vast, right? Because it is whatever you make it.
Very true.
Just like he was saying, it's taken him 10 hard years to cultivate exactly the mixture that he's looking for. So he knows when he goes into that space, it's exactly what he's looking for all the time. He's going to laugh, or he's going to be informed by something that he's interested in. Something that he's looking for is going to be there. It's his own very uniquely cultivated space. And that's important to note. One, because, and we'll talk a little bit about this, I'm certain, is because this polarization, that's a hot term, right? Like a hot buzzword, people call it in these days, because the polarization that people feel is happening. You said it was polarized world, I think yesterday in the chat we were talking, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there is truth to that. I don't think that you can say that there isn't polarization. I think that a lot of the times it's overdone. I think a lot of time it's that's overanalyzed, or it's over pushed, right? That idea could be oversaturated because people say it a lot, and online it looks like that. But when it comes to boots on the ground, rubber hitting the ground, like we moving through the streets and having encounters with other people, I don't know what your world, your catered world actual real life is like. But when I go out and I talk to people and I talk to people on the phone and I text them and through social media or whatever it is. So not social media, excluding social media. I don't find it that polarizing. Mm-hmm. You just pulled up and you saw me just talking to a guy out front. I just met this guy that's a professional pool player down the street, right? Neighbor, never met him before. We just had an awesome 10-minute conversation. That was cool. Now, that's what most of my interactions are like. Like, I don't usually get that weird angst in people and they're looking at me like they're trying to figure me out or, you know what I mean? Like, am I on this side or that side or what can I say or what can't I? Like, we're just having regular human interactions about whatever it is they're doing that day and what I'm doing that day or whatever we happen to be doing as a shared activity at the moment. Right. Like, it's never really that weird energy. And I think that that's a lot more of what's actually happening in real life. But when you look online with this, you said cesspool of ignorance-ness happening, then you can get a deeper feel that it's a whole lot more ripping at each other's throats than it actually may be. And
that's exactly what it is. Because when I say a cesspool of ignorance, I'm talking about there's everybody on Twitter is a genius. Everybody knows everything. Right. You know what I'm saying? Everyone feels like they have to give their opinion and that their opinion is valid. It is law. Right. That's what everybody thinks.
They got the answers.
That's not what I think.
Yes.
Because to be quite honest, I do a lot more twatching than tweeting. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds wild nasty. Wild nasty, but I get what you're saying. I'm gonna let you do your thing. Go ahead, continue.
I do a lot more scrolling on Twitter.
Please.
Than I do tweeting.
Wild. Super wild. I would never use that again.
Twatching.
Never do it again. Never, ever, ever do it.
It's Twitter watching. I'm watching. I'm looking. I'm using my eyes.
I feel you. You know, there's certain words that people find nasty. You know how a lot of people, especially women, find the word moist nasty. And which is funny, right? But people find certain things nasty. People find the word pussy nasty. Mm-hmm. People just kind of vulgar and weird. I think that the word twat is not a beautiful name for a vagina. No, but that is a word for people use that. I don't think the word cunt is a cool word. You would never hear me saying those words to describe a vagina ever in my life. Or to call anyone that ever. But people do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
But I would never, because that's just, it's nasty. It's it's classless.
That's just not how we operate. We don't walk around just using, we talked about just using demoralizing type of speech and words a couple of pods ago.
Yeah.
We're not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're not walking around, referring to different ethnicities as this or as that, as things that they would prefer not to be called. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So it's just not how we operate.
Right. So my whole thing is, that's what I hear when you say I'm twatching. Okay. I'm like, ew. What does your feed look like? That's pretty gross, but I get it.
I do a lot more scrolling through Twitter and watching and looking than I do actual tweeting. Yeah. And it's just, when I say it's a cesspool of ignorance, sometimes I come across something that I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a interesting something here. And I'll go into the comments and all it is a bunch of people just it's a peeing contest, a pissing race all the time. Just people, oh, well, no, if you do this and, I know that if this is this is, and I'm just like, why? Is it really that deep? Is it really that deep?
Well, I mean, depending upon what it is we're talking about, a lot of these things that have been going on in this past month, we'll talk about a lot of these things too. All the things that Mikey says, it's wild that this can happen yesterday or that this thing can happen a few weeks ago in Buffalo, New York, right? And that's not the craziest headline of the month.
That's true.
What a wild American experience.
Well, right? I mean, half the time though, the stuff that I'm speaking about is not quite even on that level. Right. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about very simple things that people just seem to have to argue about. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, so you're right. A lot of the times, no, shit ain't that deep. And a lot of times things are deep And it still doesn't warrant people to treat people the way that they do or to have the conversations the way that they are. In a sense, I don't know if I should say it doesn't warrant it. It warrants a conversation. A lot of these things do. The point is that people don't know how to have them.
Right.
And that's really at the heart of the matter. I
don't even know why they're trying to have them in a space like that.
Because what if that's all you know?
That sucks.
Like, what if you don't have real, okay. So before we get on my outside looking in take on Twitter now that I've spent a couple of days on it. The other day, Mikey said in the chat that he feels like Americans are not happy with themselves and that not all, but a lot of the issue is capitalism keeping up. We're not just pure capitalism, right? And having a free market, but just that people have this idea of comparing themselves to one another. Social media didn't necessarily lend a hand towards walking away from that, and that we want to keep up with the Joneses, right? If you've heard that old ass term, right? We want to make sure that we are standing next to this guy and we have at least what he have, but it would be better if we have more.
Everybody's too busy comparing themselves to the next person.
And so we don't live in a society where what's most important is just our health, our sense of community, security. Like these are the things when I talked about Bhutan and the service that they give out to their populace on how happy they are. Like, what types of things are you asking? And they divide them into these types of things. Like, how secure do you feel? Now, keep this in mind. A lot of people feel like we need to have these things to be the best country. It depends on what you think the best country is. Like, like, what does that mean? Does it mean having the biggest military and being able to just blow shit up whenever you want to and like keep war at bay? Like, okay, that could be you can take account for that. Like, we can take account for that. Like, having security means something. Now, you don't necessarily need to have that. Right. So Bhutan, I don't know what their military are looking like, but it ain't looking like ours.
No problem.
I know that, but I do know that people there are far happier than us. So that's something to take into account. We have a lot of things, a ton of technology, roads, buses, jets, all sorts of wild shit going on. Wild affluence, which I said to you the other day in the chat. It must look crazy from the outside looking into America. Like, y'all niggas got it all and y'all act like this. How do we not look like the rest of the world or the rest of America sort of looks at people in Beverly Hills in America? Like, how do we not look like the divas of the world? Like, y'all have it all and y'all can play and y'all don't know how to handle it. Like, y'all just run a fucking muck, tearing shit asunder. You don't know how to treat each other. Asunder.
Let's break that down for us.
Just torn it into shreds, into pieces.
In shambles.
Okay. Shred.
Asunder.
Okay. Like, and so you guys don't know how to handle it. You have no sense of community. You have no sense of real spirituality. You have no sense of like something grounding you all. You all are walking zombies. Like you're sleepwalking. Wake the fuck up. Like, you have it, but you don't have it. Right? Like, y'all got everything and you sad as fuck. So what does that say about just attaining things? Now, Bhutan, there's a lot of gravel, a lot of dirt roads. They don't got nearly the type of technology that we have. But healthcare is taken care of for them if you're sick. Now, they don't got the doctors that we do, but if you're sick, they will take you.
And you won't get a bill for $500,000.
No, I told you, like I said, if I have a heart attack and I go in and y'all hand me that bill when I wake up, y'all got to put the heart attack back in me. You put the heart attack back in me, bro. Like, I'll have to deal with it. Like, I'll have to find another way, because one, I don't know how that doesn't give me a second heart attack. And two, I went to sleep and then I woke up and y'all handed me a bill for $250,000. Just imagine that. What? I went to sleep and I woke up $250,000 in debt.
Would you have rather them let you go into oblivion?
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about it because I don't want anyone else to have to deal with that stress. Like if I can't bear that weight, I don't want my family.
But then again, even if you just died though, there's still some sort of bill at play here. I'm certain there's a bill to be paid.
Oh, like someone still has to take care of that somehow?
I mean, you were in the hospital. They spent time working on.
So like a next of kin is gonna get hit with
possibly,
it somehow.
Somewhere, somebody is gonna have to pay for that work that them doctors and nurses did. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know nothing about the medical field. I'm just saying it kind of makes sense to me.
I'll have to look that up because I'm not quite certain because that would definitely be wild. But either way, these people in Bhutan are super happy. So most people own their own land. They don't have bill collectors after them all the time. They have a sense of community. People talk to one another. They raise children together. They think about death often, which I've talked about on here, because once you truly let it settle in, that at any moment, it could be a wrap. The more you think about that, the more you just start looking at your loved ones a little differently. The people you're spending time around, you just start looking at them differently. You just start like giving a fuck about what they have to say. Mm-hmm. Like you start talking from a different place in your heart. Mm-hmm. Like your life gets a little different.
I mean, I think that's something that you learn as you grow though as well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? My dad, even your dad is like that. My dad is like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. So you do learn it as you grow, but it helps if you have people around you that have that settled in the infrastructure and implementation of the way that they live. Yeah. So you can have that in certain subsets, in certain divisions, certain factions of life, like people. Our families, like we think about that. We have these conversations through this platform. The people that listen to this, they'll be thinking about that because they have me in their fucking ears right now through through the speakers, right? But if you don't, then you don't. And that's just that. But when you have a whole culture, a whole nation.
Yeah, that's a different level.
It's a whole different level.
It's a different level.
You have a whole different just rise like of people. Yeah. That are just living a completely different reality than, say, people over here in this Western world. Yeah, it's a completely different reality that they're living. Yeah, so it's just different. So people are unhappy. Now you said to Mike that you feel like, like that probably has a lot to do with it. If you don't think that that's most of the issue as to why people are going around and doing a lot of these heinous crimes like we've just seen, and we'll talk about them certain as well as everything else I've already laid out in some way. What do you think is going on? Like, what do you think is happening in America where all of these travesties are taking place? We can talk about, these abortion rights that people are fighting about. We have the Buffalo shooting where the guy ran in the supermarket and killed. How many people did he?
I think it was like 10.
Killed a bunch of black people. Like it was clear that he was going after black people. There was a video of the white dude on the ground, which he said sorry to, after scaring him and continuing on his spree. Right. So, and then after that, now we have this shooting in Texas. Yeah. Right. And I think there was another one as well. There's so much shit going on all the time.
I mean, are we surprised?
But now we have this one in Texas where we have these 19 children, I believe.
Yeah.
And 2 adults.
Yeah. Something around that.
Right. So what do you think is happening?
I mean, look, hindsight's 2020. Okay. I may have been a little vague with my response there. Yeah. I'm certain that, social media and just kind of the expectations that a lot of people kind of set for themselves in their minds that are very unrealistic. That definitely has a lot to do with it. But I don't know if I can add on to that. It has a lot to do with your community, your upbringing, the people that are around you, Like what type of household were you raised in? You know, did they say it takes a village? Did you have that village? You know what I'm saying?
Or who was comprised of what was the village comprised of?
What was the village like? Because I mean, we've spoken on here plenty of times about just our upbringings and, you know, how we've seen people around us kind of being brought up and the differences in between the two. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, social media definitely has a lot to do with it because it's creating expectations that are very unrealistic. You got everybody trying to be like everybody else, wanting what everybody else wants. It's actually something that I'm trying to steer my son away from it. You know what I'm saying? He sees a lot of this stuff on TikTok and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, he's seeing that he's wanting those things for himself. And I can't expect him at his age to completely understand where I'm coming from. Yeah. But I'm trying to instill in his mind right now that a lot of that stuff is not going to come for you. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying that you can't have an imagination and dream and want things for yourself, but you also have to be realistic as well.
I mean, what is he talking about?
I mean, you know, he wants to, I think, what is that thing called? It's some sort of
the hype house.
Yeah. The hype house is, some house out in fucking California with a bunch of, where all the cool kids is at, you know, doing their little, you know what I'm saying? This shit.
Like, doing their dances, whatever else TikTok is
doing
on.
Their dances and their faces and shit, you know, and you know,
licking their lips,
and
you know,
all that shit.
Piercing their eyebrow and slitting the eyebrow.
Yeah, like, you know, he's I want to live at the hype house.
Yeah, like he want to be like a male baddie. Like he want to be.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, and I'm just telling him, I'm like, look, like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? We've all been influenced.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? We've all seen some shit that we were just like, oh, that's going to be me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in the 6th grade wearing big ass fucking pants and shirts, you know, trying to be the next 50 Cent. Like, you know, I get it. I get it, you know, but I'm just trying to kind of just little bit by little bit, just put the thoughts in his mind, letting him know, like, you really have time to really figure out who it is that you want to be in this world. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to try to make that decision right now. Just chill out. Yeah. You know, and I want to say, oh, you know, just be a kid, but it's hard to say that when all you're seeing is kids. Doing these things and living these lives and being this person. Yeah,
when you're a kid, man, you don't want to hear that shit.
Oh, of course not.
Like, you want to be an adult so quickly. Like, you want to get up and you want to do stuff. Now, these kids that he's looking at, these are kids, but they not living a kid life.
No.
Like, they may be doing some cute dances and stuff like that, but they out there in California fucking. Right? They're doing some other stuff. So it's not as innocent.
Nah, I'm certain.
As like watching PBS Kids. Like, like that ain't like the kids ain't like they ain't looking for that anymore.
No, nigga, when I was his age, I was playing basketball and watching SpongeBob.
It ain't like that no more. And just side note with those big clothes, as I was telling someone the other days, our clothes used to be so big that's how I was able to start stealing more clothes. Because I remember going to...
This nigga had space.
Bro,
this nigga had space in his clothes to store more clothes. This nigga was a walking wardrobe. Like, it's ridiculous.
I remember going to Rugged Warehouse over there on Sudley.
Oh wow, Rugged Warehouse.
Yes sir, and that stuff was cheap too. But I still didn't have money.
I forgot about Rugged Warehouse.
I didn't have a job for a long time. But
that's not there anymore, right?
No. I forgot what's over there now. I know that
Rugged Warehouse.
I don't know what took that large space, but you have like Dream Cafe is still over there, you know, and all that sort of stuff.
Man,
I have some good times, some good memories in Dream Cafe.
Warehouse,
smoking hookah.
Yeah, I went there one time with you and Jess, like once.
Oh yeah. But
had some chamomile tea.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Tea, anything like warm with smoke. I think that's why like coffee and cigarettes are synonymous. Like having something warm, because like smoking cigarettes and smoking hookah, like that'll dry you the fuck out. Mm-hmm. So like having something warm, like a nice warm tea, like chamomile tea, I could definitely see that. Some lemon honey and some hookah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll do it. Maybe like a little piece of pie too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
what kind of pie they had in there?
I don't know, but I could do a lot of different, but I could do key lime. I could do like a warm apple or mixed berry.
It wasn't grandma's sweet potato.
Nah, never that. Nah, never that. Anywho, but I would go in there and my clothes were so big that I would go in there and me and a couple other friends, and you would just pick up whatever it is you wanted to try out. Now, this was before department stores got hip in general and started having what are those, the trying rooms, what are those called? Fitting rooms. Fitting room attendants, where they're just people standing over there, you know, with fucking big ass belt buckles, and they give you like a little thing where it says like how many items you went in there with. Oh, see, I don't even try clothes on, so I don't even know this anymore. Well, yeah, I don't it's not very often that I try clothes on. I kind of know what size I need for the most part. Yeah. But no, like you go in there with like 3 items, they'll give you like a little thing with the number 3, and your ass better come back out with 3 items. Yeah, like it's all the same stuff. But so here's the thing. I was going and picking up shirts and pants and sweaters, whatever it is that I wanted to steal, and I would pick up 2 of them with my hand. So it looks like I just have one, but I would pick up 2 of the hangers at once, and I would go in there with like 3 or 4 different outfits. This nigga had it down to a science. And I would put all of those clothes on underneath my already, large ass wardrobe. Like I would have a 4XL fucking Eniche or, Echo t-shirt on. Avarex. Nah, I don't think I was ever doing. Oh, you wasn't doing Avarex? I don't think I was doing the Avarex, but I would put on these large ass shirts, huge ass pants, and then I would put all this stuff on underneath these. So I'd have like 3 or 4 outfits on underneath my already existing outfit. And then when I emerged from the fitting room, I seemingly still had all those clothes that I walked in there with on the hangers. And then I would come out and I would just be like, I'm not going to get it. And I would just put it back on the hangers. I'd put everything back where I got it and maybe buy like a pair of socks or something like that. Oh, hold on a second. I got to get let me charge this before this goes out. Losing battery over here. Yeah, but anywho, so that's the way that I would steal clothes. It's never been like that. I had a guy ask me yesterday. I got on the topic of DJing, and he was asking me, how it is that I know what I'm going to play. Do I have a playlist set up at all times? And I'm like, it just depends on the event. When did this person ask you this? Yesterday. Oh, yes. Okay. Yesterday. Okay. And I was like, it just depends on the event. Like, I don't. A lot of times, like, depending on what the event is, I'm catering to a certain type of crowd that's a certain age, you know what I'm saying, from a different background or ethnicity. So there's certain things that I do have to have. So in that instance, I might make a playlist. But if anyone ever gives me free roam to just do whatever I need to do and just keep the party lit, 9 times out of 10, I don't have a playlist because I have a plethora of music that I can cycle through. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to know how to keep everyone activated and going the entire time. That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. Keeping everyone activated. That's a really good way of putting it. I like that. Yeah. So, he just, he happened to, cause dude was, it's funny. I was, he wanted to rent a unit and he came in and he's asking, he's like, I've never rented a unit before. I was kind of nervous coming up here. I just didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But he was like, I'd really like to tell you that you've been very polite and you've been very patient. And he was like, quite honestly, even just the tone of your voice is very calming. Oh, that's cool. And it, it kind of put me in my, kind of put me at ease. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. That's an awesome thing to hear. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you do, but I get compliments on my voice all the time. Yeah. That's really cool. So, but I was saying to Rachel the other time that it's the specificity of the compliment. Mm-hmm. Like, I like your voice. It's cool. Mm-hmm. But your voice is calming and it put me at ease is a completely different compliment than I like your voice. It's cool. Yeah. That's a completely different thing. Yeah. So, he was like, I was a little nervous. I've never used storage before. I don't know how any of this works. He was, and he was from like Ohio. He was just here on business and needed a storage just for a couple of months. He was like, I'm new to the city. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just here for work. And he was like, you've been polite. You've been very patient. And, he was like, your voice is it's very calming. It kind of put me at ease. Like, I feel a lot better about this situation now. Yeah. And then we just, I got to talking about DJing, just different ways that I use my voice to do things. Yeah. No, that's definitely really cool. Okay. So when you say you keep people activated, A lot of it. So, I mean, you're looking at the crowd. You're seeing the response, the way people are dancing.
Feeling things out. You know what I'm saying? Like if I put a song on and I'm not really getting the reaction that I thought I would get, I'll end it early. You know what I'm saying? I'll throw something else in.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I'm not gonna play through the entire, well, first of all, you shouldn't play through the entire song to begin with.
Yeah. That is a long,
but I'll end it earlier than I would usually end a song if I'm not really feeling what it's doing for the crowd. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he was just kind of asking me like, you know, how does that work for a DJ? You know, like how do you know what to play? And it was like, you know, a lot of times you don't. That's why I tell people DJing requires a lot of mental activity. Yeah. Like when I'm up there, I don't have stuff in my mind like that I know. Like I said, sometimes I do make a playlist, but like when I was DJing at Santorini, I had no damn playlist.
Right.
I was just up there. My mind's working constantly thinking about what the next song's going to be. Should it be on the same BPM? Should it be on a different BPM? How am I going to bring it in? Should there be any bells and whistles? Anything extra? Like your mind's just constantly moving.
Yeah.
And all while trying to keep the party going.
Yeah.
It's a crazy.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's so important because what we do here now, I don't know what it's like for these other podcasters. I would love to speak with them more because I think that in general, any artist process is so interesting. I find it so like amazing what the actual specific steps that anyone takes to making their craft. Like I just find that to be awesome because everyone's going to be doing it like a little differently. And some people are going to be doing it very differently. And you're going to hear some shit you never heard before. So I was never the person in like, especially when I was taking college courses where if I had to give a speech where I wanted everything to be written out because I didn't want it to be stiff. I think you have to be amazing to write something out and to rehearse it a bunch of times because you want to rehearse it because you don't necessarily just want to read straight from the paper and have your eyes on the paper. You have to learn how to keep your eyes up and look at the people as you're giving a speech because I believe that should be part of the grading scale as well. Like I think that's a part of the rubric is eye contact with the people. I remember that. Yeah, for sure. And so to be able to rehearse,
I took my interpersonal communications class online, so I didn't have to do any of that.
That's so whack. That is not the same at all. That's not tight. Anyway, I didn't. So I'm speaking from being there in person. And that's so whack. What the fuck? And so, did you have a public speaking class? Did you take that?
I didn't take public
I was about to say, that's insane.
No, I just took interpersonal communications. I had to write like an 8-page paper on communication though.
Right. And so being up there, it must take immense work to be able to write something. Because one, you have to go through like 3 or 4 different types of outlines. Like you're brainstorming, you go through whatever sort of outline set you're going to do. You probably have a couple outlines. You're going to do a couple of rough drafts. Then you're going to have a final that's kind of a final. You might go back and want to tweak that a little bit. And then you're going to rehearse that thing a bunch of times. And then you're going to go up in front of the class or in front of the people, wherever you're doing this at, the boardroom, wherever you're at. And to do that and still find a way for it to seem like loose and you're not a robot just reciting words that you've been rehearsing for, that's a talent. Like you really got to learn how, or I guess I should say probably a set of skills, but you have to learn how to really do that. It could be a talent too as well. So I understood maybe having index cards and having like some bullet points and doing it that way. And I think there's something to that too. I didn't want to do either one of those things. Mm-hmm. I wanted to learn the information, like read the books, talk to people about it, have conversation about it, delve deeper into the nuance of whatever it is that I'm supposed to be presenting to the class. And then when I get up there, I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and then it hones a different part of you. But what you're saying is you have that constant stimulation because you're thinking about what the next song is going to be. Are there bells and whistles? Am I going to cut it out? And what, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm thinking about it though. Yeah. And so in that mode where you're in front of people, like what I'm doing, what we do here with this podcast, or what you just really do in engage in conversation is you're there and you're stimulated by what you're saying. and you get that hamster running on the wheel and what the other person's saying and how they're responding to you. And you're just bouncing back and forth, but it keeps you in this zone.
Oh yeah.
Knowing that you don't have a bunch of bullet points or paper written up or a fucking chalkboard or poster board or vision board, that you don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So it keeps you in a different place. And that's a place I love to be in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily expect for a bunch of other people to love to be in that place. I would assume that just even the thought of that would give people wild anxiety.
However, the cool thing about DJing is that you got these
headphones,
because as I'm playing a song, even though I'm searching for the song and I'm preparing for the next song, I can play that next song in my headphones, figuring out how I'm going to introduce it, in what ways, on what cue, on what beat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's really, it's kind of off the dome in a sense, but I at least still get the preparation to be able to introduce a song when I'm ready. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's still a lot. It's still a lot going on because a lot of people, even if it came to communications, would like a little bit more than 30 seconds or 40 seconds to figure it out. You know what I mean? So you're still working on, there's still a pretty strict timetable.
Oh yeah, no, the timing's very strict because if that song's 3 minutes, maximum, you're probably going to play 2 minutes of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So after you've chosen the song, if you didn't already figure out what song, cause sometimes I'm thinking 2-3 songs down the line.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if you're not doing that, then you're really working. If you're going song by song, you're really working.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you have to work even harder if you've now gone 2 or 3 moves ahead in your mind, but that second song didn't hit the way that you want to.
Yeah,
so now you got to make a pivot.
That happens.
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah, now you got to call an audible.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah,
that definitely happens.
Yeah, that's dope. So yeah, I'm enjoying all these other podcasts and the way that people do it, and I just think that it all comes down to everyone is going to express themselves the way that they're going to. They're interested in what they're interested in, and they're going to go about it the way that they go about it. This platform and the way that we do it, this style, this format, this is for me. This is what I want to do. But, for all those other ones that are, doing movie reviews and they have their scripts out and all that sort of stuff, like that's how they do it. And like, that's cool too, if that's what you're into.
Respect.
Yeah, for sure. You got to put respect on their name. And that's what I'm here to do. I don't want to belittle anyone that's doing their craft the way that they see fit.
Yeah.
Cause for them, it's not all about, they're not trying to put pure, engaging, honest, respectful, present-minded, dynamic conversation, right, together. Like, that's not what it is. They don't see conversation the way that I do. They don't see it in the same they don't have the same artistic integrity, or I should say conversation doesn't have the same artistic integrity for them as I have for it. Right. So that's kind of what that is. But it's awesome. It's awesome to get to look into that. So that's a little bit about, the whole Twitter thing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been a
I'm glad you're there. Days. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're with us.
It's been a wild few days just with all these different things going on, the tragedies going on, and seeing the way that different people are trying to handle it and talk about it. It's wild, and we live in a wild time. I know that people always say that, and I'm certain that just life has been wild ever since life has been a thing.
Yeah, and
we're here and experiencing it.
And we're older and our minds are working differently. We're more conscious when it comes to this type of stuff because this shit's been happening all our lives.
It is.
Maybe not quite at this level, but crazy things have always been around us. But at a younger age, you're not acknowledging it in the same way.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is saddening.
Yeah. A
lot of it is certainly saddening. And it's because when I had Rachel on, episode 117, Just Sit Down. Awesome. I love her. She's one of my favorite human beings and doesn't even know it now. Like I like her type of person, just respectful, open, here, very bright, just awesome. And I was telling her because as she told me about subluxations, your vertebrae being out of place and those causing all the symptoms for a bunch of things. It's like she talked about going in there and them aligning people, and then certain people having these wild sort of emotional outbursts. Like some people like laugh really hard or some people will cry, like they've had everything on the spectrum. And that there's just emotion locked up in certain places in your body. And so people react differently. And I said I could see myself laughing. She said, "You're definitely a laugher." Right? She was like, "All the time I've been working there now, you're definitely a laugher." But I said that I could see myself laughing logically based on the fact that I find there's something sad and still comedic about the aspect of life being undue suffering. That I know that sounds callous, but I have to explain this. There's something extremely sad about undue suffering because it's suffering, and that undue, it doesn't need be, right? But there's also the comedic element because it not need be, right? Okay. So imagine me putting on some shoes every day, and every day I'm just telling you, I'm like, "Yo, Keion, my feet are killing me, dude. Like they are killing me." And you're just like, well, I mean, you being the shoe guy, you were just like, "Well, what's up with your shoes? Like maybe you should go to like one of the shoe places where they can figure out exactly what type of shoe you're wearing. Like what type of shoes you got on." I was like, "Oh, well, like I wear a size 13, but like these are like 10s. Like I just put them on." You'd be like, "Nigga, what are you? You'd be like, Earl." Yeah. Earl.
First of all,
that may not even be possible, but let's just say like 11, like, yo, you're not supposed to be wearing those.
No.
Your feet are wild. What are you talking about? That's a 3-inch difference. You can't why you got your feet cramped in there like that?
That is an unnecessary evil.
That is undue suffering, right? Like it's suffering that I don't need to do because I have other shoes that fit me.
Right.
I have money to purchase shoes that don't do that to my feet. So it would be like, damn, Earl, like that's kind of sad that like you just walking around here with your feet like that. But it's funny because you're an idiot. It's funny because you don't need to be going through that. Like if you only knew that there are some other shoes out there that you didn't have to cram your feet inside, or that there are places nearby that would provide that service for you or that product for you. If you knew that, then you would be out of this jam. And so when I said that I felt like I would laugh if I went to a chiropractic office, is because I would laugh at the fact that people are going in there with certain pains, and it's going to take this chiropractic doctor a few seconds and he's going to relieve it. He's going to be like, "Oh, so you've been dealing with this pain for about 5 years, right? You say it's over there on your shoulder. It feels like this. Come over here for a second. How do you feel now?"
That's all it took.
It's because that pain and suffering that we deal with all the time doesn't have to be there. I know that this can be triggering for certain people because it's like, Earl, you don't like certain pain is going to be there, and certain pain but there's a ton that doesn't have to be.
I was just about to say,
and that's a fact.
I was just about to say people start to just condition their lives around that.
Right.
And it's just okay.
You become accustomed to it.
Yeah.
You're like, well, listen, I've just been bearing pain for a while.
Yeah.
So like pain is bearable at this point.
Oh, that's nothing. It's just kind of been a thing I've been dealing with.
Right. In that if only you knew, right? You're not a chiropractic doctor, so you don't know what needs to be done, but he does. Mm-hmm. She does. Mm-hmm. If only you knew what needed to be done. And so I look at a lot of people's pain and suffering that way sometimes. I look at some of the things that people go through and I just say, if only you knew. If only you knew what you needed to do. Because I feel like I have a decent idea. Mm-hmm. I don't know your makeup. I don't know your background. I don't know these things. Those are things to take into account. But when you talk to me about a certain sliver of your life and something that's causing you suffering there, I'm just like, I feel like I have the answer to that. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't got all the answers. And anyone that is pushing, they have all the answers. You should be wary of those people. Mm-hmm. Right? but I feel like I got that answer. Like I feel like I got that answer. One is because I used to do that shit.
Yeah.
Like I was doing that and I'm not doing it anymore. I figured some things out, right? Like I solved that equation. I can't do it all, but I solved that equation. And so it's wild, but people are out here, they're going through a ton of stuff and they're trying to find ways of expressing it. And that's a lot of what Twitter is. That's a lot of what Twitter is. There's a lot of people that don't know how to express things, but they're going to express them anyway. Babies don't know how to talk, but they're going to scream at you.
Yep.
They're going to try to find a way. Toddlers don't know how to. They're going to throw a fit. So you just think that because people just continue to get older, that they matured in all the ways that you would want them to, or that their level of articulation and communication rose as well as with their height.
Right.
It's not like that. That's not the way it works. The larger you grow with in height does not equal out to maturity.
No.
Right. It doesn't work that way. So a lot of people are just, 30 to 50-year-old children. And they
30 to 50-year-old children.
And they just throw fits because they don't know how to communicate. And that's a lot of what that is. So that's why I don't take a lot of that, but it is saddening because it's just people are in a bad place and they do a lot of bad things, and we just get to see a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
A whole lot of it. And the more you just press your face up against that screen and focus on it, it can seem like that's all that's going on. So it's rough. It's really, really rough out there. It's saddening. And, I have no idea what that would be like to send your kids off to school and
hoping that they come back.
And that's it. That was it. Your man, your woman headed to the supermarket to grab some eggs and some milk, and that's it. That is a human experience. That is many human experiences.
Very tough.
It's very tough stuff.
Very tough.
Speaking on, let's finish up this Twitter thread. No pun intended. Let's finish up this Twitter thread by speaking on what we were speaking on before we hit this record button.
All right.
Which was, so I guess Kevin Spacey is being looked at. He's being looked for in UK too. Supposedly there'd be 3 people in the UK saying that he's being nasty out there too, touching people, sexually assaulting people.
Mike said international cheeks. International cheeks.
International cheeks is crazy. Yeah, groping international cheeks is wild. And supposedly that's kind of been his thing, like groping nut sacks and grabbing asses.
What is up with
It's a power move. It's I own you. Sort of like when Terry Crews came out with that story that like one of these super like powerful Hollywood men walked up to Terry Crews at a party and grabbed his nuts. Is looking Terry Crews in the eyes like, whoa, do you know how powerful you have to feel to grab Terry Crews's nutsack?
Yeah, that's a brolic nigga.
What? Firmly and look him in his eyes? How you doing, Terry?
What? Yeah, I thought so.
Terry, go get me some punch.
I thought so.
That's crazy, right? So it's a power move. It's power dynamic. And I've seen Kevin Spacey in real life a couple of times. And, he was chill. Like, he wasn't doing nothing crazy, right? He's not being Frank from House of Cards running around doing nothing wild, but he's just there. I had a friend that told me, I think this was around when the allegations started to come out, but he told me that, he kind of shot like a small shot. Like, it was kind of like a little layup. It was just like, yeah, so like, what are you doing after this? Like something like that. And my friend at the time, he was a good looking guy, good looking, like real, like sort of like preppy looking guy, like hair combed over, not a hair out of place, just really clean cut. Probably had like a Louis V bracelet on or a Gucci watch. He was one of those guys, always had like Louis V or Gucci on him. Just wanted to look clean at all points in time. And Kevin, he said that Kevin threw him a little rhythm. Threw him a little rhythm. Just ask him.
Threw him a little rhythm.
Threw him a little rhythm. You know, just like what you doing after.
Takes two to tango.
And he said that there was, and supposedly that there was like a bellboy or a valet guy that said something along the same lines like Kevin. When Kevin came in, he said something to him too. Like, yeah, like, so, you know what room I'm in. So, you know, don't be afraid.
Oh, man.
You know, just like something like that. Now, again, this is hearsay. I don't know. I'm not trying to break news here or anything like that. I don't know anything. I'm just saying these are things that I heard. I don't know. Hearsay. But supposedly now he's got some allegations going on in the UK. Again, international cheeks. And I told you
that might be the title of this pod.
International cheeks.
That might be the title of this pod. We'll see.
But the thing is, we've talked about a lot. I never know what the title is going to be. Mikey comes up with some really great stuff. But the point is, at least I believe 3 people have died that have accused him.
That's the craziest part.
I think that 2 of them were suicides, and 1 we just read was this person being hit by a car. So, and again, I don't know for anyone that's listening if they had watched House of Cards, but I truly believe this, that if you're going to be a good actor, which I do think I have some acting chops.
Okay.
I think that if I had put my mind towards it for a long time, I could have done that because it's the thing of being with the children and losing your mind in their world, right? Sort of like, I haven't been looking at this Johnny Depp, Amber Heard trial, but what thing I do know is that Johnny Depp is an actor's actor. Okay. We're talking about Edward fucking Scissorhands. We're talking about Jack Sparrow. We're talking about Willy Wonka. We're talking about the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. We're talking about a guy that's a little nuts. Okay. He gets into wild roles and he says that he likes to pick these wild roles because if you get in a wild, flamboyant costume the way that he has to for all these roles, he can lose himself. And if you put this stuff on, he can become that person. I can
see that.
Right? Whitey Bulger from I think it's called Black Mass. That was awesome. Public Enemies is cool, even though it's not like he was just like a cowboy or sort of like a rebel of sorts, like I think it was a bank robber.
Yeah, he was a bank robber.
All the Blow was really cool, but all of his movies are out of the park. But I think if you're an actor, I believe, because I've watched so many interviews of actors because they fascinate me, being able to like be chameleons of sorts. Like that really fascinates me. If you are to assume the position of someone that you are not, meaning I have to read this role, read the script, understand this character, and I have to become them. And I have to be on the big screen, or I'm going to be in a play, which is even harder to do because there's not a bunch of cut scenes and, makeup guys and lighting, and there's going to be a director and a producer. Like there are people in the seats watching me live. I gotta activate. I gotta be on. I have to do this in front of them. So that's a whole nother level. If you're if you come from theater, you're really like wild. And that's something Denzel Washington says. Like, if you want to be a good actor, do theater. Do theater. If you are to assume the position of these roles, of these characters you are to play, you can't judge them. That's what they say. If you're going to play a villain, you can't judge him. It don't matter if you're playing the Joker, you're playing, who is the dude from, Avengers? Thanos. It don't matter who you are. You can't judge them or else you're not going to do them justice. You have to understand them. If you want to be Killmonger from Black Panther, you have to understand him. Understand where he comes from. Understand why he is the way that he is. Now, this is a technique that a lot of people, especially on Twitter, talking shit about other people and the way they live their lives, don't do. This is one of the reasons why I told you I love third-person omniscient books, because it forces you to see things from a bunch of different perspectives. Right? If you start to try your best to truly look at things from other people's perspective, there's going to be a part of you that really understands them. Like really, really, truly understands them. You don't have to agree with everything that they do, but you understand them. Kevin Spacey was Frank Underwood from House of Cards. I think he understands Frank Underwood. I think he understands him on a deep level. Frank Underwood wasn't the best guy.
No.
He was doing a lot of wild, underworldish, politician, corrupt, nasty, diabolical shit. Mm-hmm. He was killing people. Mm-hmm. He was killing people. Spoiler alert, the show's like 9 years old, but he was killing people. And he was the type of killer where he had a guy killing people for him, but sometimes he would catch the body himself.
Damn.
Like he was, pushing people in front of trains. Like he would catch the body himself. And so when I heard that Kevin Spacey, the human being, the actor, had these accusations, and it was like wild. It was like, I think it's in the teens. Right, and not just teenagers, but like teens of people coming out against him, and that several of them had died. I was like, okay, okay. I just take that into account.
Right.
Now, you were making fun of me for looking for justice before we started recording, because I said, oh, okay, he was charged, which means accusations. When they use different terminology. When you are convicted, that means you have been found guilty in the court of law. We also know that being found guilty in the court of law all the time is some fugazi shit too. But we try to trust in the system, usually when it's in our best interest to trust in the system, because people move the goalposts when it's time to trust in the system. Right. So when people are accused, like him, now we're stepping back into Twitter. So this is the Twitter thread here. Elon Musk. Elon Musk has now been accused of sexual assault or harassment. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that it's because he's as powerful as he is, and he's decided to be very vocal about his political views. Mm-hmm. And that in this day and age, when you do that, people want to cancel you. People want to shut your mouth. They want to deplatform you. They want to do this, that, and the third, which is wild to me. We haven't really talked about cancel culture on this platform, but I find it to be pretty wild. We have spoken about it.
Maybe once or twice.
But I find it pretty wild. I just come from the era of change the channel. Just go listen to something else. You don't have to shut everyone else down that doesn't agree with you. Right. Just allow the conversation to be a thing and trust in people to move away from people that are just ridiculous. Allow the conversation to be had and let the cards fall where they may. I think that we make a lot of dumb decisions, but we'll find it. We'll find little patches where we're following stupid people that have some stupid, policies and perceptions about things. But we'll find our way back to people that sound like they make sense when they speak, that have like clarity when they speak about things and they're not hateful. We'll find our way to those people. So just allow people to say what they want to say and allow the conversation to play out. People will find the people that are true and that are responsible with their words and that are loving and caring and generous. We'll find a way to those people. I believe that we will. Not everybody, but people will.
Yeah.
And so deplatforming and all that stuff is kind of wild to me. Now, he thinks that it's because of his political alliances and saying that he's not so left as he was, because the left used to be a place of kindness and of generosity and of openness. But now it seems like the cancel culture, the stop this, the you're going to do what we tell you to do, the you're a racist or you're a bigot or you're that. And they're just pointing fingers a lot of time at people with figures and telling them what they are and slandering people's names. And my heart goes out for some of these people because whether they're rich or they're not, they're people. Right. And so it's one of these moments where people might say, oh, boo hoo, like he's going to go cry into his however many $1 billion he has. It's like, I see what people say when they say that. It's like, bro, he's a, at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to someone being a human. Like, you don't know what he deals with. You don't know how he feels inside, money or not. Like, you don't know how he feels. You don't know how this stuff affects him.
Right.
You don't know. And so I've always been very weary of throwing tags on people, titles on people. I don't take that lightly either, because that shit sticks with people. You just start throwing names at people, that shit sticks. And so when someone says someone did something, I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the evidence. Let's read through some stuff. Let's see the court hearings. Like, let's allow this to proceed, because I don't want to be the person that condemns this human for something that, because you imagine being in that position. Imagine being in a position like of being a public figure, and there was a misunderstanding somewhere, or someone wants to get over on you, or there's something you didn't do for someone, or there was alliance that you took, or allegiance that you took with someone or someone's, and some other people didn't like it. And they made a real smear campaign, because smear campaigns are real. Yeah. Imagine that. And imagine a conglomerate of people coming together and campaigning to smear your name and your reputation amongst the world.
And even if it comes out that none of that stuff is even true, like, all that smear is already out there, and it can still affect you in the long run.
It's a stain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been some shirts or something in the past where you spilled some ketchup or some fun coffee or some shit on there, and you cleaned it, but there was a stain there.
Yep.
Like, you didn't get it all out.
Right.
There was a stain. And you can keep washing it and keep washing it. Now the shirt just dingy. Now the shirt just dingy, and you got a stain. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's wild. So so I just try to take those things into account. Now, this Elon thing kind of weird. I ain't gonna lie to you. Having said all that, this is what's weird about it. Because the woman herself, so there's a woman that supposedly, allegedly, started working as a flight attendant for his cabin crew for one of his fucking jets that he be on. And I want to make sure I try to get this as right as possible. And she was asked, now I don't know if it was by him particularly, but she was asked to get like a masseuse license. Like, now, I don't know about you, but if I owned all of the world, I would just hire the best masseuse to come on the jet.
Not just some girl that I think is hot that I want to touch my body. Nah.
That I want to touch my body.
Yeah, like,
right.
Come on, son.
Yeah, so it's like, why don't you just? So that's red flag number one for you. It's like, this doesn't have to be true yet because he hasn't been convicted. Like, we don't know all the ins and outs. But why is she being asked to get that? I don't know why. But why don't you just get a masseuse, like a real masseuse, like the best masseuse?
Because it's not about the therapy.
Shit, that's crazy. Because if I have money, I don't care who it was, what they look like, how old. If you are the top masseuse, like you're in the top bracket, I don't give a damn what you look like. None of that. I just want the best massage I can get.
That's why it's probably not about that for Elon.
You're so stupid. You know what's also crazy and kind of nasty about this?
What?
My grandma called me Elon. Earl. She just shortened it to Elon. Like,
Elon.
In the last 6-7 years, she started calling me Elon, which is interesting, right? That it came in like the last 8 years or so. She's like deemed me Elon so late in life. Yeah. So anywho, so that's kind of weird. What's also weird is that supposedly, I guess he had asked if she could do a little something strange for a piece of change, right? Meaning he was going to purchase her a horse because I believe she's equestrian. And so he was going to buy her a horse in exchange for her to like, I'll jack him off or something like that. But she declined.
Niggas too rich to jack themselves off.
Can't do that.
Too much money.
Come on, I'm worth $500 billion. You think I'm gonna jack myself off? Come on, man. What are you talking about? That's crazy. I'm not touching my dick if I'm worth $500 billion. That's insane. So anyway, but she proceeded and just was like, I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna just, cause she got the license. And she just massaged.
Oh, she did win.
I believe so. So I believe she just continued, right? So like that's also kind of weird too that she decided to proceed with that. Yeah. But maybe it's like, I'm working for fucking Elon Musk. Like, who knows how long I worked to get to this spot where I work for the greatest man in history, right? Like, I don't know. So you do that. I know. So that's a little weird, right? That she decided to do this.
That's interesting.
It's also a little weird. Now, she signed an NDA. Now, if you're to work in this facility, right, or just on this tier of human beings, NDAs.
I'm sure a lot of NDAs being thrown out.
So she can't speak about these things. And she hasn't spoken about it. All this information is coming from a friend of hers who went to like the Business Insider, and this is anonymous source, right? Because she doesn't put her name out there. They don't put the other person's name in there, the actual alleged victim. Like none of this stuff. The Business Insider says that they know the identity of clearly both of these people, but they're not putting it out. And in that article that we wrote, the friend wasn't even privy. The friend didn't even tell, the alleged victim didn't even tell the friend to go do this. The friend went and did this of their own accord. So, it's just
a lot
weird.
Of things up in the air.
It's a lot of weird stuff going on. And Elon did just put out on Twitter, like I'm sorry, I'm not with the left if y'all acting like this. I'm just going to vote. I guess I'm just might have to vote Republican. And then he also says something like, now see what they do to me or see the little tricks that they have for me up there. Now, again, at this level of life and of corruption and politics and technology and money, we don't know what the fuck is going on.
Nah.
We just down here some peons. We in my apartment doing a podcast.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know what is going on. The shit is wild. So all we can do is take these small tidbits of information here and there and try to speculate. That's all we can do. So my whole thing is, I have no issue getting nasty people out of here.
Right.
If you nasty, you doing nasty stuff, you taking advantage of people, and you have this real grotesque power dynamic element about yourself.
You grabbing nuts.
Right, we got to get you out of there. International cheeking it up. We got to get you out of here, right? And also with that being said, due process. Due process. Because we don't need any other people going through any undue suffering because of the undue process that they're being granted in people's minds and in people's hearts.
You trust the system?
Dude, what can you do, man?
Yeah.
Like, all you can do is shrug your shoulders, like roll your eyes. What can you do? You just have to, bro, this shit is tough. Life is tough.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why at the end of the day, you read these things, you listen to these things, you try to allow percolation in your mind, right? All this stuff is bubbling up. You allow an incubation stage to try to cook these damn ideas in your mind, and you try to wrap your mind around the fucking world.
Right.
It's not going to happen, but you try your best as us dumb little human beings try our best to do. But we're so stupid. We are humans, bro. And as much as impressive as we are and as much as we've done, we're so stupid at the same time. There's only but so much we can actually do ourselves. Well, there's so much of every single story that we're missing all the time. And people have no idea about that. People act like they'll read an article and think that they actually understand all the ins and outs of everything that took place of whatever situation that was.
Yeah.
Like, that is what people's minds are. They truncate and they completely diminish and deplete everything else that they can't possibly fathom or understand.
Right.
So if you can't understand something, you say, well, this must be this then. And that's just not how it works. You're missing so many of the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And you just, and you're trying to call out what the picture of the puzzle is. It makes no sense at all. That makes no sense. So that's usually what's going on. I just, at the end of the day, that's why you can't get lost in the media sphere.
Yeah.
In whatever media sphere it is that people usually get lost in, whatever your poison is, right? That's why it's just best to come back home and call your mom, call your dad, talk to your friends, go to the gym, eat some nutritious food, maybe read a book, like just get back to your life. 'Cause ultimately, that's all you can control. Nigga, a bomb could hit right now. Right? So, and all this could be up.
Yeah.
So all that we can actually do is we can't figure out what's going on with these multi-billionaires and the flight attendant / masseuse on the plane. And we can't figure out what's going on inside this guy's brain that shot up this school. We can't figure out why where exactly all these troll farms are that disseminate all of this vile information and just I guess you say tinder to light a fire on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is that you happen to be on. We can't figure all of this stuff out. So it's interesting to think about and to know, and that's where the balance would come out here. It's cool to read some stuff. It's cool to think about some things. It's cool to have some conversation and know what's going on around you and understand on some degree the climate. But the climate, even taking a temperature of the climate, you can't just do by the media sphere because that's corrupt. It's corrupt because people have agendas and there's money moving through it and you don't know who's backing who. So that's not even a way of temping it. A lot of the ways that people do, which people are getting further and further away from, some people are getting closer to it, is talking to people. Like, what is the climate in your life? When you go to the supermarket and you look at people and you talk to them there, what's the vibe? When you go to your job and you talk to people and you look at people and they look at you and they talk to you, what's the vibe? When you're talking to your significant other or your child or your mom or your dad, or what's the vibe? When you see a neighbor out and you guys are both throwing trash out together and there's something like, what's the vibe? Like, those are temperature checks that are going to mean something for you, because as we see in the media sphere, there's going to be a tragedy that takes place and there are going to be people down the street like, I would have never thought that this would take place. Like, what the fuck? Like, you never know where some shit's going to pop up at. So you're trying to strategically figure out where you need to be and who you don't need to be around. That just looking at your feed on Twitter is not going to be the most analytical way of doing it.
Right.
The shit, I mean, it can become maddening for people. Stressful. I'm certain of it. And I know that it does because we see people go through maddening times. I told you back in 2020 that we were going to see the ramifications of quarantine for years and years to come. We're not done with that.
Yeah.
Like, just because a lot of states have moved on and you know, the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial is more important than COVID and the Ukraine. Like, that doesn't mean that we're done with these things. Right. We're going to see the ripple effects of people's mental faculties for years and years to come, because being locked up alone or with people that you didn't necessarily like or get along with, whatever drugs and drinks you were partaking in, whatever abuse you saw or partook in, that's going to ripple for a long time. We're not done with that. People just stop talking about that.
Right.
We're not done with that.
So on to the next thing.
So yeah, all that's crazy. And you know, as much as people don't want to hear it, heart goes out to people. I mean, I'm not a policymaker, so I'm not the type of person that can't say that, right? Because I know the whole thing is
thoughts and prayers.
Stop saying thoughts and prayers, policies and actions.
Right.
I get that, but Earl Lonnie Hooks ain't the policymaker,
right?
Right? Like I'm not that guy, and my heart does go out because I just don't. I just couldn't. Yeah, like I can't. That would be a difficult thing to compute.
Right.
That would be a very difficult thing to compute.
Right.
Yeah. So that's wild.
Yeah. Life is precious, man. You just gotta, it's hard to even navigate it some days.
Well, good friends and friends in general, but definitely good ones, are at the heart of that. Good friends. And I talk about this with friends all the time, is I think some of the most important decisions you can make is weeding people out of your life that do not serve you, that are not, they're only causing chaos in your life at this point. Like there's no room for them there anymore, but you make room for them. And sometimes people just need friends and they're looking for that. And when they're looking for some friends, you could think that, well, sometimes you see some people really thirsty for them. And it could very well be because they don't have what you have in that regard. Their friendship, they may be bankrupt of friendship, right? And you just recently had someone ask you if you are their friend.
Yeah.
And maybe this guy, there's a good chance, Keion, especially from the past story you told me about him,
right,
that he just, he doesn't have a solid core of friends.
I can't imagine that he does.
You know what I mean? You can't see. That's what I'm saying. You can't even imagine that he does.
Yeah, not the way he be acting.
And so, if you would like to tell this story, the floor is yours, sir.
This is probably going to be my final story from my job because I'm not going to be there too much longer. But this is
the end of an era. Is what it is.
The end of an era. So we spoke about the Ferragamo situation on here, or
okay. Quick wrap up or synopsis is.
So this guy came into the office several months ago talking about someone potentially stealing stuff out of his unit, blah blah blah. So he comes in. He also wants to pay his rent, and I'm asking him for ID. He's giving me shit about ID, and now it's starting to make more sense why he wouldn't, because he just doesn't seem to have things quite together. He's giving me shit about ID. I'm just asking because it's the protocol, but I've seen this gentleman before, so I let it slide. He doesn't show his ID, but I know who he is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm just kind of following the rules here. So I go outside. He's out there, doing things with his car as he usually is. His tags are expired. They expired in like 2020. I don't know how he hasn't been pulled over. I don't know what's going on with this gentleman. But so, he, and this is just the backstory actually.
Right.
So he's telling me, oh yeah, the stuff in my unit, it don't even really matter. You know what I'm saying? Like I got on Ferragamos right now. I walks on the backs of these. Like it's nothing. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, dude, like I hate when niggas try to impress me. Like I really do. Like I don't care.
It comes from a deep place of hurt.
I don't care about your shoes. I really I like shoes, but the way that you're coming at me, I don't care.
Yes.
I really do not care.
Yeah, that does not compensate for you being a dickhead.
Yeah. So flash forward to maybe a week or two ago, something like that. I see this gentleman again, and me and him have had, I won't even say conversations, but run-ins where we're just, hey, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man? Blah, blah, blah. Just real quick, easy, whatever.
Civil.
I saw him, like I said, a week or two ago, and he comes up, or I'm walking past him. This time he doesn't say anything to me. And that's whatever, because I don't really care if he does or not, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm about to get on the elevator, and he just starts rambling, just kind of like, at that point he does say something to me, and he's like, what's up? What's going on, man? And I'm just like, not too much, just working. And he says something about something in his car leaking. One of the pipes, or shit in cars that leak.
Sure.
Yeah, areas of cars that leak. And he's talking about some girl that was supposed to be helping him out with getting that part replaced. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm saying, I gave her the money and everything, but I'm saying, I ain't heard nothing from her. I'm waiting on the part to come. My shit just over here leaking and everything. And he was like, what I'm saying, he's like, she kind of making fun of me because, what I'm saying, I got kind of a belly, what I'm saying, like, it's basically just, I guess he's just kind of talking about like when they be fucking, like, she sees his belly and she thinks that's funny or whatever. And
having someone laugh at you while you're engaged in sex is wild.
Yeah, it is.
And you're not trying to be funny doing something. It's wild.
And so I laugh because I don't know what else to say right now, because I don't really care about what you're saying to me. So I let out some sort of awkward laugh, like, wow. And he's like, oh, what you think that's funny? You think cause, you think I can't fuck cause I got a belly? And I'm just looking at this nigga like, Like, I'm not like, I'm not judging you. Like, I'm not judging you. You know what I'm saying? My tone changing and everything.
So it's still funny. Just like when you told me the first time, you looking at another man and be like, you don't think I can fuck? Cause I got a bet. Like, bro, I don't even know what to say to you because I don't care.
Right.
Like, that's not really why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because this is an awkward encounter in general. Yes. And now, like, that's just helping my anxiety at this point. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, he's like, you think I can't fuck because I got a stomach? Huh? And I'm just like, I'm not judging you. Like, I don't really know.
I'm sure you're great, man.
Yeah. I close the elevator and I go upstairs.
Yeah.
So I go up there, I'm cleaning out this unit, and I come back downstairs. This unit contained like a Buddha statue of some sort, with the head like completely knocked off. Yeah. Like, there's a body and there's a head just on the ground. I mean, on the cart that I'm taking it out in. So he sees me with it and he's like, what's that? And I'm like, it just look like some little statue somebody left behind. It's broke. And he was like, what, you about to throw that away? And I'm like, yeah, it's broke. So yeah, I was about to do that. And he was like, you can't throw that away. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
And he was like, can I have it? I'm like, yeah, sure. If you want it. So he goes, he picks up the head, picks up the body. I was like, what, you gonna glue it back together or something? And he was like, man, you don't understand this. Like, you can't throw this type of stuff away. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. See, so I don't know, because he said it that way. I don't know if he's talking about, because you said it's ceramic.
It seemed like it was like some type of ceramic. Yeah. It didn't seem like it was like handmade.
Yeah. You know? I don't know if he felt like, it was like artisan made, like he could really get like a few bucks off of this, or like the materials invested in it, or if he just thought, this is a religious, or not really religious, and really, honestly, but like, this is a very prominent figure. You can't just like throw this figure. Like, imagine you just like taking a portrait of Jesus and just throwing it in the dumpster.
Yeah,
like,
it could have been that. I don't know.
Now Buddha's not necessarily the same in that sense, but it's a very strong, prominent figure. Yeah. Like, you can't throw that away. So I don't know exactly what he meant.
Now, don't get me wrong. I said Buddha because that's just what it reminded me of. It could have very well just been some sort of statue that looked somewhat religious or some sort of icon. I just said Buddha because
was it like a chubby guy? Was it like a chubby?
It was kind of it wasn't even like a guy. It was kind of a mixture. It was, it's just something that you would expect to see outside of maybe at some sort of temple.
Were they sitting crisscross applesauce? Like,
I want to say it was something like that. It was kind of a sitting figure.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
Okay. So, that happens. And then for whatever reason, I go back up the elevator for something. And then he starts rambling on, telling me about, some sort of party that he was going to invite me to, but he's not going to invite me anymore. He was like, yeah, I was about to invite you to a party. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of heavy niggas. He literally said heavy hitters. He was like, I was about to invite you to a party with a bunch of heavy hitters, but you know what I'm saying? You laughing and shit. And I'm just looking at this thing like, and I didn't say this, but I'm just like, I don't want to go nowhere with you. I don't want to go nowhere with you, dog.
Heavy hitters. What are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? Who's in there? What sort of opportunities are in here? Who's in here?
Exactly.
Who are you rubbing elbows with?
Exactly. I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to be in that room. I don't want nothing to do with that. And so I come back down the elevator one last time. I'm headed back towards the office. He's headed towards the office area as well. However, he's going to the bathroom because he's filling up jugs of water, filling up like little gallon like milk jugs with water. Yeah. Because he's putting the water in his car. I'm assuming his car is overheating.
Right.
For whatever reason. Maybe he's losing coolant and that's the part that he's waiting on. I don't know. So he's, steady filling up jugs of water, trying to keep his car from overheating.
People throw that in the carburetor, don't they? Like to cool down.
Either that or he's throwing it right into where the coolant would go in the vehicle.
Okay.
So as we're walking back over towards the office, this was the weirdest part to me. I open up the door to the office. He's opening up the door to the bathroom and he pokes his head like, back outwards out.
Right.
And he looks at me. He's like, hey, I look at him and he was like, you my friend, right? And I was just like, yeah. And I closed the door because dog, that's just a weird ass question to be asking somebody that you don't know. That nigga don't know my name, nothing. Like, don't ask me that. If we were friends, you'd know it.
Yeah.
You would know if me and you had a friendship.
It's, man, that subluxation of the spine and the vertebrae really touched home for me, because it's just like, it's the best metaphor for us being out of alignment in life and the symptoms that come from that. It's just the best metaphor. And I listen to the things that this guy says on various occasions, as well as this one. And this is like a 4-part story. Yeah. So he had like 4 parts to say some wild shit.
Yeah.
And it just seems, mental health is real, dog.
It is.
Like, it's real. And remember when RJ was working as security at that hospital, wherever he worked at?
I think so.
He used to share stories.
I know he's had a few like security gigs.
That's when for sure. And so this was none of the clubs or lounges, right? And he's at this hospital, and he said that's when his eyes were really opened to mental health being a real thing, because there would be days where he'd see someone and he'd be talking to him like normal, like one of the patients in there, and he'd just be chopping it up with him. They're talking about everything, sports, culture, politics, whatever's going on, and they just be chopping it up. Real chill, real cool. And to the point where he'll be thinking like, why the fuck are they in here? Mm-hmm. Like, are they just getting like free meals or something? Like, this is kind of weird. Like this, like they seem like people I know outside of here, just like they like a regular ass dude. And then the next day, that motherfucker would be flipping shit, going crazy. He said that there was a dude that was going wild, and I think they threw him in some room, and he was going wild. And I think he like punched somebody, started running towards the room, and like did like a front flip out of the room because the people tried to put their hands, like the security guards tried to put their hands in front of him. So he didn't leave the room, and he jumped and did a front flip over their arms.
That's crazy.
And hit the ground and started running.
That's crazy.
And this dude, like he had just seen various accounts of people in there flipping shit, going crazy, screaming, talking to people that weren't there, dealing with various degrees of schizophrenia and other things. But you'd catch them at another point, and they'd be completely fine, just chilling. And that opened his eyes. It's like, oh fuck, mental health is for real. Mm-hmm. Like the brain is a muscle, and if you are not working it out, if you are not exercising it, it can atrophy with time. Mm-hmm. Like, try to lay in your bed for a year and then try to get up and run around and see what happens. You're going to fall on the ground immediately.
It's not happening.
Your legs, your muscles will atrophy. If you do not, there is a real, if you don't use it, you lose it aspect to muscles. Mm-hmm. And if you're not constantly exercising your brain and stimulating your brain in all these ways that we talked about, whether it be the off the top of the dome conversation podcast style that we do, or you're DJing or reading books or whatever it is that gets people there, because there's a myriad of ways of doing it, then your brain will atrophy. If you're constantly just dealing with stress and you don't find ways or practices to quell your stress, it will have a direct effect on your mental health. You will start thinking differently. Things will start getting darker. Like that shit will, the light will start getting dimmer. You will see shit start happening weirdly, and you won't be able to think straight. You won't be able to logically process and logically and rationally process the data that is coming in through your senses. Mm-hmm. It won't be in the cards for you. Mm-hmm. And you can actually watch someone's mental health degenerate through time. You can watch that happen. Yeah. And it's a sad thing to watch. A lot of it could be undue suffering. Mm-hmm. So it's wild to watch, but that's for real. When you talk to me about this guy, he's just not that. He's just not put together. It's just the alignment is off. He's got stuff he's dealing with. It's just, he's looking at you talking about, you my friend, right? Like, nigga, who are you?
Right.
You don't know who I am? Are you asking me this because you about to do something shady and you hoping that I'm going to collaborate whatever story that you present afterwards? Like, am I going to be an accessory to some shit? Mm-hmm. Like, what are you asking me if I'm your friend for?
You never know.
I don't know, but it's a little off keel.
I closed the door and I locked it. That's what I do know.
Literally and metaphorically speaking, that door is closed and locked, double bolted. Yeah, so that's it on that. I got nothing else. I think we've done a lot. Yeah. I think I've talked a lot. We've expended a lot of energy. We've got through a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And this has been awesome for me. I fucking love doing this. It's getting better and better and more fun and more enjoyable every time.
Yeah, this was
I come here.
I know. I feel like I say that every time, but this was a good one.
Yeah, this was a good one. Last words for the people, Keion?
Our time is precious. Please, hug your loved ones, your families, your friends. Work hard, play hard. Do all, shoot for the stars, do all the things, that you've always wanted to do. However, still live within your means. Be realistic as well. A lot of us get caught up in the Twitterverse and the Instagram verse. Mm-hmm. A lot of that shit is fugazi, as Earl said. It's very fugazi. And sometimes it's great to take a seat back, get rid of some of the things that have been holding you back in life, and just keep it real for once. Keep it real in a lot of different aspects. Physically, literally, emotionally. Just be as real and as true to yourself as you possibly can. Those are my last words.
My last words for the people. First thing I will say is, because if you do find yourself amongst the same horde of people that believe that this America, or this world for that matter, is extremely polarized, I would say, all right, I may not have the same information that you have, right? Because I could be off on that. As I say, I'm remaining teachable, so I'm always up for new information. I'd love for someone to come tell me some things that I don't know. I'm sure there's tons of it, because we are much more of what we don't know than what we do know. Mm-hmm. That's just the gift and the curse of being a human being. There's much more going on in the world that we do not know than we do know. If you think otherwise, you're a fascinating person. You also need help, because that's just not true. Mm-hmm. And one of those many, many things are, and this is very, very important, and this is not to absolve anyone of any crimes ever, but it is to elucidate, to illuminate, to broaden our horizons, right? And our view of the landscape. I know that it's fucking difficult when you're on one side of the fence and you think that those people on the side of the fence ought to be on your side, because how could they not be? Mm-hmm. They're immoral. They're unethical. They're fucking savages, or they're all stupid. They're all everything that you're not, right? That's the blame game. That's the pointing fingers. That's always just what people are going to do. But if you can grant yourself the fact that everyone on each side is thinking the exact same thing, that has to give you pause for thought. That has to at least give you pause. They're thinking all the same things that I'm thinking about them. Like, so what does that say about the situation? Well, it says that there's a lack of understanding on both sides, mm-hmm. really is what it means. It means that there are pieces to the puzzle that are missing on both sides, and that either side has both of the puzzles. It's not until you're able to look from a third party view, and you're looking at, as I've been talking about so much now, contribution versus blame. Like, if you don't have a horse in the race, if you don't have a dog in the fight, and you're able to just separate yourself for a second and just look at the data and look at the entire story as much as you possibly can from all different sources, until you learn how to do that, there will always be a them and an us. You're always going to be opposing someone, fighting someone. That ain't for me. I like to try my best to achieve understanding. I think that's the most satisfying achievement anyway, is really understanding the landscape as a whole. Everything holistically. Doing nothing without intention. As what is it, Scissor's mom? Yeah. Right? Like nothing without intention. And that's the way that we have to
Scissor's grandma.
Scissor's grandma. Yeah. That's the way that you have to encounter one another. That's the way that human interplay has to play out. Or else whatever polarization is there is only going to grow. Mm-hmm. So at least on the brinks, on the fringes, definitely. If it's not that way when it gets towards the center, kind of in the center of whatever spectrum you happen to be on, whatever side, definitely the fringes will go out further and get wilder and wilder. Mm. So, and that's something that we don't want to see happen, because we don't need any shit to get any more extreme than it already is. Right. So that's just something I think that people ought to take into consideration. As much as you think the people that you're looking at that you oppose are unethical and immoral and stupid and monsters and beasts and savages, they think the same thing of you. And if you can grant yourself the moment of thinking that they are doing this for ethics' sake, they believe that they are morally sound. They believe that whatever newscasters are broadcasting news to them on whatever platform it is, they believe that these are the people to trust. Like, so at the end of the day, like they're trying. They just happen to be over there and you happen to be over here. Mm-hmm. It's weird. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that shit, but that is the fact of the matter. And until we figure that out, we're going to be fighting about everything all the time. Mm-hmm. Period. And lastly, I love everybody. Again, super humbled that people are listening to this. You know, people are watching on YouTube, and that's super awesome. Putting a little bit more, work into the artwork of the thumbnails, and that's made me feel pretty happy, because I like just looking at a cleaner page. Mm-hmm. So I like the people like that, whether it's my Snapchat or the Instagram or the TikTok, or you're on SoundCloud or Spotify or, Apple, whatever it is. I'm super thankful that these people are listening to it, and that more and more people are listening to it. This podcast community that I'm reaching out to and getting a lot more entwined with. I love the love that they give to other podcasts, the shout outs that they give, the podcast hubs where they're just flushing out shout outs to people and content here and there, and giving a space for people to come and talk and integrate. I think that that's beautiful, because we need more lovers and less haters. Mm-hmm. We need more lovers. That shit is awesome, and I love it. And I'm out here, and we're going to keep on moving. We're going to keep on doing this. We're going to keep on trucking. I'm going to continue to have awesome guests come on and chat it up with us. We're going to continue to come on here and get better and better and do what it is we do. I can't wait for the guys episode. Yeah. When we get all the guys in here. Yeah. That's going to be an awesome episode. That's coming definitely up as soon as you figure out your schedule with this thing, and we can get an evening for all the guys to come through. The guys going to come through. We're going to have 4 or 5 of us in here chopping it up. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So that's what I got. So this is episode 119.
Almost a quarter way to 200.
We on the way, man. We on the way. I love it. Peace, everybody. Peace.